Preface. Be mindful of what you are as you reflect it into the world. Be selective of what you reflect into the world as you absorb it from the world. Be aware of what you absorb from the world as you store it into memory. Be intentional of what you store into memory as you become it. This quote captures the essence of what I aim to explore in this book, the theme of mindfulness and how we engage with the inner landscapes of our minds and the outer realities they participate in shaping. In my previous work, I sought to integrate insights across disciplines to advance our understanding of consciousness and experience. That foundation still motivates this inquiry, but I wish to emphasize here the cultivation of mindfulness in how we reflect and absorb the world. By being more mindful of our inner worlds, we can become more intentional in what we reflect outward through actions, words, and presence. As we absorb realities around us, we can grow more selective of what impressions we internalize into memory and identity. I believe this mindful participation between inner and outer worlds holds keys to living wisely amid life's profound mysteries. This book is structured around that central notion. In Part I, we will examine the origins of inner experience and conceptual tools for understanding it. In Part II, we explore the co-arising of inner and outer worlds. Parts the third and IV look at how we absorb and store experience. Finally, Part V focuses on practices for intentional self-cultivation. My aim is not to reduce life's complexity, but to illuminate how mindful engagement of the whole self may nourish our shared existence. Introduction. We begin with the mystery of consciousness itself. Though we each experience thoughts, sensations, and awareness directly, explaining how or why this subjective inner world arises from physical processes has proven elusive. Philosophers term this the hard problem of consciousness. It shall serve as our entry point for explorations of experience. The quote above frames the approach this book will take, one of mindful participation between inner landscapes and outer ecologies. By carefully tending the terrain our inner worlds, we gain tools to reflect realities more intentionally. And by absorbing outer worlds attentively, we can nurture memories and narratives that serve wholesome becoming. This resonates with traditions cultivating mindfulness, but also finds parallels in modern physics and systems sciences. So let us start by peering into the origins of experience itself and work toward more fully recognizing its interbeing with the webs of relationships enlivening our cosmos. Part I, Inner Reflections. One promising avenue for addressing the hard problem of consciousness is panpsychism, the view that mind or awareness is present in some form at all levels of existence. Rather than emerging solely from complex biology, this perspective suggests experience manifests primitively as an intrinsic property even of subatomic particles or other fundamental entities. Combination theories propose that macro-level experience emerges from the interaction of these more basic proto-minds. While panpsychism does not solve the hard problem completely, it suggests consciousness arises more fundamentally than physicalism would maintain. Some also see alignments with quantum physics and notions of proto-experience underlying material reality. There remain conceptual obstacles in linking primal proto-consciousness with complex human minds. Combination theories must explain adequately how unified experience could arise from combining simpler, separate experiences. And panpsychism must delineate how mental properties coexist with and influence physical properties of basic entities while neither reducing to nor conflicting with physical laws. These areas need further conceptual development and empirical verification, but locating primal seeds of sentience within the very fabric of existence provides a compelling starting point for understanding consciousness as more intrinsic to reality than traditional science has acknowledged. Phenomenology and related fields provide first-person investigative lenses complementary to the third-person physical sciences. Phenomenological inquiry cultivates mindful appreciation for qualities and structures of experience itself. A core insight is that consciousness always reflects a particular situated perspective within larger webs of relational meaning. Inner landscapes are composed of qualitative fields, qualia like the redness of red or the pain of pain. But just as particles only exhibit definitive properties within larger systems, qualia take on significance in structured complexes or informations. Information integration theory proposes that consciousness arises from distributed informational relationships binding coherent experiences. Thus, while subjectivity itself remains mysterious, conceptualizing inner worlds relationally as informational spaces composed of phenomenal qualia provides a starting point. Careful first-person investigation, partnered with studies of associated neural systems, promises to shed light on the terrain of consciousness while avoiding reductionism. As awareness mindfully turns within, insight unfolds. If consciousness arises relationally, what brings inner experience to life? The answer likely involves complex dynamics within interconnected neural systems. Synchronized communication between distributed brain regions seems critical for binding sensory features into unitary experiential wholes. Conscious perception appears to involve large-scale neural integration, with the breadth of activation predictive of reportable awareness. Information flows across linking hubs, resonating in re-entrant neural loops that may underlie primary qualities of experience. Input passing along such intrinsic connectivity could generate inner awareness. Attractor networks in the brain also seem implicated in conscious contents. Stimuli may generate repeating firing patterns that become stable attractor states corresponding to perceptual contents. Alternating neural assemblies could allow seamless, streaming experience by transitioning between attractors. Intrinsic dynamics of the brain thus organize into coherent informational flows giving form to consciousness. Understanding these complex neural dances remains challenging, but evidence points to consciousness arising from self-organizing orchestration of distributed neural resources into resonating informational structures. Mindfulness of these living inner ecologies reveals the breathtaking dynamism innate within. Part 2: Outward Reflections. Inner experiences do not arise in isolation. They are situated within broader external contexts that shape their meaning. Phenomenology suggests that consciousness is essentially world-directed, composed of perceptions, memories, and actions intertwined with environment. The apparently objective world itself could be understood as a co-arising interplay between organism and surround. As cognitive scientist Francisco Varela states, organism and environment enfold into each other and unfold from one another in the fundamental circularity that is life itself. Rather than a pre-existing external reality, we enact worlds through dynamic history of structural coupling between organism and niche. Through sensoromotor interactions, the lived world is brought forth as meaning-imbued landscape. Consciousness is thus embodied and embedded within an ecology it participates in bringing forth. Human experiences do not exist in isolation. We are part of intricate webs of relationships with other conscious entities within a vast interdependent cosmos. Consciousness interconnects through resonances across multiple scales, from quantum to cosmic. Mathematician and philosopher Alfred North Whitehead conceived reality as a fundamentally dynamical process of relating. We participate in this universal flow through reciprocal causality, each shaping and being shaped by surrounding networks. Environment participates in eliciting behavior, just as our actions alter ecologies. From this relational perspective, existence unfolds through mutually supporting coevolution. Consciousness extends beyond isolated egos to encompass dialectical exchanges that weave organisms and environments into reciprocal genesis. Reality is not an array of static objects, but rather an ecology of dynamically relating parts co-creating wholes. Part 3: Absorbing the world. Our senses provide windows through which the world flows into our conscious experience. Perception forms an active interface for participatory exchange of energies and information. Sensory modalities resonate with environmental signals, allowing their forms to propagate into brain and body. Physicist John Archibald Wheeler famously proclaimed, "No elementary phenomenon is a phenomenon until it is an observed phenomenon." Measurement in quantum theory similarly implies observer participation. Conscious observation actualizes latent potentiality through resonant interaction, crystallizing patterns into percepts. Reality interpenetrates consciousness through the permeable mystery of sensory becoming. Absorption is never complete or one-directional. Organism and environment mutually transform in circular causality. As light reflects upon objects, so too we reflect reality inward through participatory perception. Our presence alters existence through quantum ripples of observation. Mind and world conspire toward concretized experience. Temporary constellations form within a cosmos of continuous flux. Consciousness itself is not a stationary essence, but an ever-changing process. We inhabit a universe where entropy and evolution ensure ceaseless transformation across cosmic to quantum scales. Subjective time flows exhibit similar relativity and context dependence as Einsteinian spacetime. Experience streams forward continuously, yet rates of time dilation vary with internal states and frames of reference. Inner chronometry adapts to rhythms of dynamic surroundings. Within this sea of impermanence, awareness finds temporary anchoring in recurrent patterns. Yet the cosmos continually reconstitutes itself anew each moment. To live in harmony with change, consciousness must let go of solidity and exist as fluid interbeing with the creative passage that comprises reality. Consciousness is not confined to passive perception, but actively explores potentialities through imagination. By recombining memories, we flexibly envision possible scenarios, aiding navigation of imagined futures. Playful inner simulation fosters learning, problem-solving, and empathy. Subtractor landscapes and neural systems similarly transition between patterns, not just reflecting stimuli, but creatively exploring possibilities. Dreaming and mind-wandering exhibit unrestrained sampling supporting adaptation. Consciousness navigates possibility spaces as experimental physicist John Wheeler described a participatory universe awaiting actualization through our questioning. Upon this inner canvas, attention spotlights salient features while filtering peripheral possibilities. Awareness sculpts mental representation as imagination's headlamp illuminating selected prospects. Yet all omitted alternatives continue to influence experience trajectories probabilistically from the hinterlands of reality's openness. Part IV Storing Experience. Each encounter with the world indelibly transforms neural architecture. Unlike rigid hardware, brains exhibit lifelong neuroplasticity, rewiring connections through experiential imprinting. Memory encoding strengthens particular neural pathways, crystallizing perceived forms and adapting future processing. Conscious registration helps select neuronal activation patterns reinforced by subsequent representation. Salient impressions traversing intrinsic connectivity leave enduring traces as riverbeds cut channels through the malleable cortex. Repeated downstream cascades deepen recollection's grooves until stimulus-response couple in familiar lines of thought. Thus, consciousness sculpts neural matter as flowing experience etches its patterns within the brain's plastic nets. Encoding through time binds far-flung regions into meaning-rich complexes revived by memory's inner artistry. Impressions shape nervous systems as their daily tides shape porous shores. Remembrance never precisely replays raw experience, but subjectively synthesizes anew each act of reconstruction. Memory's kaleidoscopic lenses gather luminous shards from diffuse neural areas into retrospective interpretation. Consequently, recollections emphasize large-scale narratives rather than isolated episodes. Selective vignettes integrate within autobiographical storylines supporting self-concept. Imagination continually refines memory's tale, reconciling varying accounts into coherent meaning, unfurling who we are. The prismatic jewel of consciousness thus accrues thickness through accumulations of interleaved impressions layered upon prior formations. Each reflection inward further ornaments intricacy of connections between past and present. Neural patterns entwine with identity as episodic fibers coalesce into fabrics of interpreted destiny. We absorb streams of sensory data and synthesize inner representations which become our world. Conceptual frameworks, composed of organized memories, filter and interpret new experiences. Constructed schemas channel consciousness into recurrent patterns, both reflecting and limiting its flow. The process begins immediately from birth as infant minds co-evolve with caretakers and environment. Retained regularities crystallize into models predicting future patterns. Top-down expectations constrain bottom-up processing, reinforcing some stimuli over others into characteristic thought. Yet imprinting remains permeable, not programmable. Conceptual frameworks guide experience within flexible channels amenable to continual updating through learning. With mindfulness, we can loosen rigid constructs into open architectures, fluidly integrating new perspectives through the alchemy of wisdom. Part V, Becoming with Intention. Brains continually regenerate, enabling intentional practices to physically reshape neural circuitry toward states aligned with wholesome being. Contemplative techniques strengthen regions supporting emotional balance, meta-awareness, and social resonance. Long-term meditators exhibit enhanced prefrontal activity associated with positive affect and reduced amygdala reactivity to stress. Yogis alter pain processing through cognitive downregulation of threat signals. Sustained mental training sculpts neural systems toward ethical and altruistic dispositions by rewiring destructive patterns. The very matter of our brains thus proves radically sensitive to where we place attention. Like directing light's energy through a lens, mindfulness concentrates awareness, activating circuits for presence. By intentionally guiding neuroplastic growth, we cultivate inner landscapes aiding harmonious participation in the world. Our minds both transcend and literally transform the brain. Impermanence remains an immutable fact of existence. Nothing lasts unchanged. Yet through intimate interrelation, consciousness learns to flow harmoniously with change. Phenomena arrive, morph, vanish, never statically, but always interdependently with all else in transition. By relinquishing false hopes of permanence, equanimity accepts reality as fluid coevolution. Attachment and aversion give way to unimpeded engagement with life's ceaseless change. Thus we suffer less what we cannot make static, opening instead to the grace of transience known deep down through mindfulness. Change unfolds inevitably, but intelligently engaging its current steers passage through rapids of ignorance toward wisdom's expansive embrace. With calm abiding within this eternal flux, consciousness awakens to its true nature, not isolated entity, but fluid inner being with the boundless ocean of becoming. Outward resonance originates from nurturing inward coherence. Through merciful attention to the strands comprising our being, consciousness integrates into compassionate wholeness. Kind presence fosters ethical engagement with other sentient beings. Developing equanimity for changes around us cultivates empathy for all facing impermanence. Shared vulnerability unmasks illusions of separation between you and I. This embodied interconnection grounds infinite responsibility to relieve unnecessary suffering. Thus, inner work of mindfulness bears outer fruits of wise action. Tilling soil of personal shortcomings prepares ground for flowering altruism. Consciousness shaped intentionally to reflect interdependence learns reverence and gratitude upon encountering its myriad reflections in others. Conclusion. Throughout this book, we have explored connections between inner landscapes and outer worlds using the lens of mindfulness. Consciousness and reality are arising together through ecological interdependence and co-creative participation. By reflecting deeply on our integral belonging within this web of relationships, we gain motive and means to partake wisely in its collective unfolding. The path entails continuous moment-to-moment attentiveness to choices, what aspects of reality we absorb into ephemeral memory, reflect back through transient action, and let ossify the malleable matter of identity. Awareness alone does not guarantee wisdom, But careful mindfulness of our participatory existence offers guidance for actualizing human potentialities of understanding and compassion within mysterious yet interdependent universes.